Welcome along to Break a Throw, where today we're going to be looking at the throws of two of the most successful players here at the MODUS Super Series, and indeed two former champions, Andreas Harrysson and Jim McEwan. And to do that, we've got our expert analyst, Matthew Edgar, here. But we'll start with Andreas. Always seems to come to life on this stage. Before we take a look at the throw, what do you think of when you think of Andreas Harrysson?
I think one word comes to my mind, and that's winner. And that's what he tends to be when he comes here to the Super Series. One of the most successful players we've ever had here. Not transferring it into other worlds right now. We've seen him have success on the Nordic Baltic. We're going to see him at the World Championships now, make his debut there. Is this now going to be the point where we see Andreas Harrysson take that next step in his career? I've had many conversations with him. He wants to be a tour card holder. All of this is just part of the journey for him, and you feel like that's going to be his destiny at some point.
Well, let's have a look and see if Matthew can pick out maybe something that can help elevate him to that next step in his career. This is Andreas. First of all, just looking at the Oki position. Anything noticeable there?
Not really, no. I mean, the main noticeable point is when we look at the foot position, that slightly rotates him over to the left-hand side, but he's compensated for that by moving over to the right-hand side of the Oki. It's one of those conversations where you go, is there a right place to stand? Yes, there is. There is a right place to stand depending how your feet are set, and Andreas Harrysson has virtually worked that out, but it does mean he's not throwing straight down a line. It means he's throwing across, and you'll see that at times where you'll see the hand sort of flick out to the right-hand side, so the fingers are coming right the way away, and you'll sort of see the thumb coming through to the board.
Actually slightly amusing myself by watching the beard movement as he throws there, because he's got this big bushy beard, hasn't he, tickling his shoulder every time he throws. Look, I'm not sure that you can give us any insight from experience on that, but I suppose, does anything like that ever have an impact on a player?
I mean, if it did, I think we'd all have big bushy beards by now. I've never grown one that big before. I have had a little bit of facial hair, but for me, I don't like things that are going to irritate me. If it's moving, then that would bug me. And when we see some players now, like with watches on their wrist or wristbands, I don't know how they can do that, because that movement,
up and down, yeah. We're taking a look now at the side angle. By the way, on the beard, his sponsors might not be too happy. It seems to cover most of them, doesn't it? What do you see here when you look at the throw in full flow?
I see compensation again. And this conversation goes around a lot, doesn't it? Is there a right way to throw a dart? Absolutely there is. There is a technique that's in it. It's proven sports science. However, you do see variations, or you do see people compensate for things in other ways. Andreas Harrysson, through the years he's been playing, has made many compensations. There's a lot of talk right now about follow-throughs, extensions. A lot of that will come depending on the deep set position of the wrist, which, as we can see here, is engaged at the deep set position. But when he goes to throw, he doesn't need the full extension of the arm, because as he gets to that release point, he accelerates with the wrist. Now, most people will look at it in two sort of ways. Do you throw with the arm? Do you throw with the wrist? Where do you propel from? He is driving through with that wrist, which is why he has to be confident. He has to feel good. If Andreas Harrysson gets to a venue and isn't quite getting the feel, if the venue's cold, he's really going to struggle with this throw.
There is a real sort of snap in the wrist, isn't there, when he releases a dart? But what is noticeable is that Paul Nicholson talks about it kind of pointing at the dartboard in the direction you're throwing, and his wrist sort of stays in that position rather than coming down there. Is that one of the reasons why his throw is so accurate?
Well, we can tell that he's really pushing it, because it's not so much what the wrist's doing in regards to pointing to the board, it's the fact that it points away, and it's almost like the palm is facing through to the board. That's when he plays his best, because that's when he's put that snap in the wrist and he's really accelerated and driven through. If he doesn't drive through at that point of release, he's going to struggle to find that consistency. And what you'll find with Andreas Harrysson is literally when the fingers are pointing right the way away and the thumb's coming through, which normally doesn't work, especially for someone who's got the throw of Andreas Harrysson, but because he doesn't have the extension of the arm, it allows him to throw this way.
What you've just been saying, Matt, we're seeing here, aren't we, from this angle, that wrist and the movement across the board. I mean, look, we can analyse throws to death, and you can almost wonder how the darts aren't deviating to that side, but the crucial thing here, I suppose, is that movement is happening after the release.
Yes, it is. The follow-through, remember what it is. It is the end of something. you know, I say all the time, follow through is that. If you practice that bit, are you going to become a better player? Absolutely not. That is a byproduct, and that's for analysts and coaches to sit down and be able to reel back to understand what's going on. The follow-through tells you a lot about what the throw is and how it's working. It doesn't mean that there is one certain follow-through that suits. It's sort of jigsaw pieces and putting it all together.
And in terms of outcome, this is his perfect throw. This is a 180 that Andreas Harrysson hit here in 2023.
The hand position always changes with Andreas Harrysson. That's the thing I've always noticed when I watch him. Sometimes it's coming through with the fingers down, and that's just purely because he's engaging the wrist within the throw and he's not using the arm all the way through. So he's going to get inconsistencies in what the hand does at the end of the throw. The best one for him is where we sort of see it flick out to the side. That's where the inconsistency comes. It doesn't mean he can't throw a dart that way, but it just is going to cause, in different circumstances, in different situations, just a different outcome at times.
And you mentioned the word inconsistency there, but ironically, he's one of the most consistent players when he sets foot on this stage. So what is the thing in his throw? What's the kind of silver bullet that is making him repeat that high-level performance time after time, even though the throw itself may be different?
I would say what's making him do it right now is comfort. He's comfortable here. He's a winner here. You go to a venue and you'll walk into places like, you know, I used to hate the K2 at Crawley. And I used to go in there, and even though it was a new tournament, you've not played any darts there, just the vibe, because you've lost there before and you've not had good results, it just sort of made you feel a little bit awkward about the place. There's other places where you've had results. The second you go in there, it's like, I haven't been away for a year. I enjoy being here. I think that's what he's found here, because yes, he's a winner here, and yes, he's got consistency here in this room on this stage, but he's not finding that consistency when he goes to things like Q School, because if he repeats what he does here at Q School, he will have a tour card and he will win a day outright. But he's not replicating that there when the pressure's different.
Can your throw change based on the environment?
100%. Absolutely. Not just the environment, but also who you play. If it didn't matter who you played, how have we seen people still, even in seniors darts, go against Phil Taylor and, oh, I'm playing Phil Taylor, and the game dips.
Yeah.
We see this all the time. So if it didn't matter who you played and it didn't matter what the room was, you'd just be able to replicate it all the time. But those sort of psychological factors really do come into play. And we see these sort of changes where people adapt to environments. I mean, another one that comes to mind, Jamie Hughes. You know, how many times did it take for him to get through Q School and then within a couple of years won a European tour? You know, it's a lot of the time it's getting over that line. Ian White was around darts for so long, couldn't get onto the TV stages. As soon as he did, he was there for years. And I think that's probably what we're seeing with Andreas Harrysson as well. I think he's one of those that when he gets his tour card, will keep it, but the hardest thing for him right now is getting it.
And as you say, he's certainly been comfortable here. He certainly crossed the line here as well in style, Andreas Harrysson. This is probably the defining moment of the MODUS Super Series, isn't it? This 1-2-1 checkout with his opponent left on 8 in a series final.
Yeah, I mean, what a moment that was. I mean, I was here for that one as well, and it was the reaction, I think, seeing the disappointment from Cam as well, certainly after the game. That was a very emotional moment there, not just for what happened on the stage, but for the sort of 5 minutes afterwards, because for Andreas Harrysson, that was his biggest achievement so far in his career. And you know, when we look at those sort of players in the past, Luke Littler, the only one who's gone and won 2 before, if you're going to say, is anyone going to go win 2? I think Andreas Harrysson puts himself top of that list.
There we go. Andreas Harrysson could do it again. That throw works here. Can he make it work elsewhere? Next up, we're going to be chatting Chucky, Jim McEwan. Welcome back to Break of Throw, where it's time to talk about another one of our MODUS Super Series champions, and it's a Scotsman, Jim McEwan. A methodical type of thrower, a gritty character. Again, a player who's had plenty of consistent success here, plays at a high level nearly every time he's on this stage. But with that more sort of methodical throw, there are maybe more mechanics to talk about, I guess.
And other dynamics as well, because I've played Jim McEwan many times, here at the Super Series, in other venues. No one likes to play Jim McEwan. I can tell you that for a fact right now. You don't like to play Jim McEwan for a couple of reasons. One, he's slow, and the other reason he's good. And, you know, when we're in the back room, certainly here at the Super Series, as soon as Jim McEwan goes out, the conversation goes to one thing, and that's, oh, I don't want to play Jim, I hate playing Jim. You kind of want to be avoiding him in the groups. So he's already got sort of a point on the board before he even gets to the stage, due to the fact of the pace and the rhythm in which he throws.
For him himself, I mean, we're looking at the hockey stance here. The foot is neither sort of side on or front on. It's kind of halfway in between. But I'm just looking at the position of the dart in the hand. If you drew a straight line from his toe that's towing the hockey, you pretty much would reach that point, wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely. And good balance there for Jim. Very, very good balance, in fact. And I think, again, when we look at the foot position, there's a lot of talk about the angle of the front foot, but the front foot's just purely balance. It's the relationship between the front foot and the back foot and what that does in regards to the hips. And that keeps him very square, which allows him to stand in the middle of the hockey and throw without really getting that shoulder engagement. So he can literally get that right through. And you see there, the hand right the way through, pointing at the ball. He can get a full extension there where he's going to get no restriction from the shoulder.
I used to spend a lot of time with Michael van Gerwen years ago and asked him about his throw, and he said, I've got no idea, I just throw the darts. When it's a player like Jim McEwan, who is slower, does more thought go into the throw because kind of you've got more time to think?
Yeah, I'll just pick up that Michael van Gerwen first of all. There we go. You're just name dropping that one in. But yeah, absolutely. No one enjoys playing a slow player because there is a lot more time. And it changes how you process things. I remember playing Scott Mitchell on this stage in a Group B. And Scott, like Jim, very, very slow. So instead of just coming and standing behind, I'm literally walking up to the wall on the far side, taking extra steps, slowing it down, just to try and replicate the pace of that sort of how much time I'm standing at the back of the stage. And you'll get this with a lot of players. They'll find ways to adjust to a slow player. The really tricky ones are the likes of Brendan Dolan, or when Jim McEwan was going through a transitional phase himself, where he was trying to take out that set position. Because 1 minute he's got it, the next he's not. So, okay, I'm going to take this wide walk. Oh, he's thrown his darts already.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that set position there because we can see it on this clip. The first dart is that little sighter, isn't there?
Yeah.
And then the next two just throws them without. I mean, we've seen other players. Gary Anderson kind of does that a lot in a different way. Is that where he probably wants to be as a happy medium? Sight with the first and then just let the second two follow?
That Andy Hamilton used to be very good at that as well, with that sighter and then just that rhythm of the throw. What's interesting is the one with the sighter, if you see here, he actually puts the point down and then uses the wrist to turn the point back up again. Gerwin Price does this as well. He sets the dart with the point down. Now, you don't want to throw with the point down because it'll engage the shoulder and lift. So with that, you have to turn it over to the deep set position of the wrist. And you can see that with Jim here. Just use the wrist. And then dart 2 and 3 are just playing with rhythm, just trying to follow. And that's essentially where you want to be, where you can just sort of play on that rhythm and feel.
You mentioned that he's tried to eliminate a certain element from his throw. Do you feel like he's tried to pick up the pace a little bit as well?
He has, but I'd also say it's been to his detriment. Because when we look at Jim McEwan when he was winning here at the Super Series, when Luke Littler passed him the title, there's a name dropped on there for you as well. We look at what Jim McEwan was doing, and then he came in and he made changes. He was making changes to his darts, he was making changes to his throw, he was trying to adapt things, and he's not hit that level again. And I think sometimes when you try tinkering with throws, or when you try self-tinkering with throws, that's where you get yourself really confused, because it's recalled. And, you know, I coach myself, but I can't coach myself. I can coach other people, but I can't coach me. Because if I was to coach me, I can't see what I'm doing, so I have to use cameras, and then I have to watch it back, and then I've got to use recalled information from 10 minutes ago to try and correct something I can't see if I'm correcting. And that's the issue. You should never try and correct your own throw. You should never go to Dr. YouTube to try and get the answers. You should always try and seek some proper advice.
Just looking at this angle here as well, similarities really with Andreas Harrysson, with the follow through a little bit there, that the hand sort of going across the board after releasing the dart.
Yeah, Jim just sort of hooks very slightly, doesn't he? It's not quite a straight out to the board. There's a little bit of a hook in there. That can come from a couple of places. One, just a slight rotation of the hips. A lot of the times with sports, we don't stand in a static position. If you think about a boxer throwing a punch, they're going to rotate the hips. If you throw a ball, you're going to rotate the hips. And you can just get that a little bit in a throw where you just turn slightly with the body to allow it to happen. The other thing is a lot of the time you see people that have this, they're already going to collect to the next dart. So you throw the dart and the hand already is on its way through. Rather than it be 1 out to the board, 2 collect, sort of just one motion. So you just get that bit of a hook.
And then another player that, as we mentioned, won a series here. What credentials has Jim McEwan got, would you say, that have made him such a prolific performer at the Super Series and ultimately one of our champions?
He's dangerous. He's slow. He's good. And at the first time Jim McEwan came onto my radar, he got a call up to a Pro Tour event. And we was practicing on the boards as we do. And I'm practicing with Ryan Searle, and the draw comes through. And when you get one of the challenge tour toppers you're not familiar with, the usual conversations, oh, happy birthday, oh, well done, you know. And Ryan came back and it was like 6'5", and he goes, that guy can play. We looked at the averages and he had like 102 average. And I thought, right, okay, we'll keep an eye on this, because you want to know everybody, you want to know what the threats are and what people can do. And one of the things that I'd say about Jim McEwan is just the consistency. And he's so consistent. If you was to say, give me an average what Jim McEwan's going to throw, I'd go 88 to 92. And it'll be somewhere within that block all the time, which is going to keep him highly competitive. But he's got that burst in him as well. Yeah. He's got that where he can go up to the 100. He's not just a consistent player. He's got an A game in there as well.
Both players that are, I think, around the 50-year-old mark, late 40s, early 50s. Neither have had that long PDC career. Harryson's still trying to get a tour card. Jim McEwan we've seen sort of in and out when he's been good on the Challenge Tour. He's played on the Pro Tour as well. Can they get better, and can they have that career?
Glenn Durrant didn't win hardly anything till his mid-40s. Peter Wright didn't win a world championship till his late 40s. You know, there is no age to this sport. And what we're seeing as well is more opportunities at different ages with things like the seniors, with things like the Super Series. There's opportunities all the way through now that didn't exist before. So even if they don't go and have that PDC career, there's still a career within the sport. Richie Howson is probably the guy that's probably flying that flag the most for anybody right now, showing how you can sort of become a regular in these sort of events, get regular TV appearances, sponsorships, endorsements, royalties. There's so much that's there. But these are two players that I don't think they're playing for those reasons. Yes, they want the money that comes with it, but Jim McEwan and Andreas Harrysson are two players that want to be on the tour. They've got that ambition, and I'll say they'll both get there. I'm fairly confident.
There we go. Well, thank you for your insights. As always, plenty more breakthrough episode with our premier panel of pundits here on Pluto TV, and that was how to throw like a Super Series champion.